I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the YS channel today. So, I'm flying solo today for this video review. Today's movie review is going to be 1988's movie called They Live, which is directed by John Carpenter. And it stars Roddy Piper, or simply billed as Roddy Piper, and Keith David. And then for anybody unfamiliar with the background of this movie, it is a science fiction movie. It has some horror genre aspects to it. But it's basically like a buddy action movie team up kind of deal. Elements thrown in there as well. Kind of think Lethal Weapon, kind of. But the main plot of this movie, and it's spoiler alert. So the character played by Roddy Piper, he finds a pair of magic sunglasses. And his character is named John Nada, in the movie. And he's like a loner, drifter type of dude. So again, he comes across a magical pair of sunglasses that reveals the true nature of the world around him. And what he sees is kind of horrifying and stunning at first. So, and they live, there are human beings, there are aliens disguised as human beings, and his glasses reveal them, along with their propaganda, which is revealed throughout the whole movie. It's actually a really interesting movie. And it's just for more background purposes here. So John Carpenter is the guy that created the Halloween franchise, and then he also did The Thing and some other movies. He's a pretty fucking good movie director, especially when it comes to sci-fi and horror. And this is considered one of his best works. But anyhow, eventually, Roddy Piper's character, John Nada, eventually just wakes up to everything that's going on around him. So, the aliens disguised as humans are basically manipulating and controlling the whole human race through propaganda and mostly subliminal messaging. Again, all revealed about the magic sunglasses. And basically, it's kind of like a harsh, awakening. It's kind of sort of similar to how in the Matrix, when Neo realizes, oh fuck, I'm in a simulation. It's kind of like that, but maybe not as graphic. But anyhow, this movie has some stunning, visual imagery, right? It takes place in the present day of when it was filmed, which is the late 80s. But when the sunglasses go on, everything goes black and white. And that's where all the creepiness and all the aliens and shit are revealed. That's when it goes in black and white mode. So, one of the reasons why, or I should say the main reason why this movie has such a lasting impact, it's not because it stars Keith David and Roddy Piper, which both of them are fucking phenomenal human beings in their own right, especially Keith David. If you're not familiar with his work, he's the voice of Spawn, and he was the villain in the Princess and the Frog. The point is, this fucker's in a lot of shit. And he plays the president in Rick and Morty. But, his credentials go way beyond that. And then Roddy Piper, who I was unfamiliar with having such a huge background in acting and, TVs and movies. I know he was a wrestler. Especially, he was, one of the main heels in, the golden age of WWF wrestling. And then they moved him to WCW. The fucking fight Hogan and all that. Even though I don't think they actually fought much. But the point is, he was a big star in wrestling. Anyhow, they have, pretty amazing chemistry together in this movie. And the Keith David character pretty much becomes, John Nada, Roddy Piper's accomplice. And then he also sees, because he wears the sunglasses himself, and then he's like, oh shit. But again, what really sets this movie apart is basically its commentary. You know, it's really what it is. People say it's kind of like anti-capitalist, which, you could call it that, but I mean, without capitalism, the movie itself wouldn't be made, right? But all the propaganda, in a way, like, we're kind of like subconsciously being fucked with and coerced into making decisions we normally wouldn't make. That rings true with, especially, how things are done nowadays. I mean, on the commercials and ads and all the other TV shows we watch, there are subliminal messages in some of it. And then it's all conditioning, and, there's a reason why they call it programming. There's a reason for it. But anyhow, all of this is exposed in John Carpenter's They Live. Now, the aliens in this movie kind of take place of the one percenters or the super elite, the New World Order type people, shadow government, whatever you want to call it, Illuminati. Again, the aliens take that kind of role in this movie. And it is actually what he's talking about, what John Carpenter is trying to invoke here. It is pretty thought-provoking. And then on top of all the layers to this movie, it's actually just pretty good action flick. One of the most famous scenes, is like when Roddy Piper comes in. He's got a shotgun, and he's like, "I'm here to kick ass and shoot bubblegum, and I'm a lot of bubblegum." And he starts just fucking shooting up the place, And his delivery of that is just, it's one of those movie lines that's gonna live forever. And then the crazy thing about this movie too is John Carpenter and Roddy Piper both said it themselves. This is not supposed to be a work of fiction, even though clearly it is. I mean, it was meant to be a documentary. Take that for what it's worth. They're on record saying it. Now, for all the UFO freaks out there, I mean, there's no aliens disguised where they'd be exposed if you wear a magical pair of sunglasses. However, there are groups, secret societies that do all the subliminal messaging that this movie refers to. You create all the propaganda and pull the strings. I mean, the election cycles is a pretty good example of this, right? Of all the misinformation and Russian bots and whatever. It's literally the real life version of what this movie is kind of like going on about here. But overall, like the action buddy team up really is pretty much, I mean, it's not meant to be, but to me it's kind of like a what do you call it, like a Lethal Weapon ripoff. But calling it a ripoff is wrong, because this movie's much better. Well, I won't say much better, but it's his own thing. That's for sure. It kind of borrows elements from that, but again, it goes in this whole thing. There were talks about doing a sequel and a remake and a reboot to this, but I mean, how can you? That's the thing. Like, so again, once the Roddy Piper character and the Keith David character, who is, again, spoiler alert, his name is Frank Armitage. Again, if you've never seen the goddamn movie, they do team up, all right, and they start, unraveling how deep this web and how interconnected all these aliens are to society, how deep everything goes. Once they figure it out, they start fucking just taking them out, shooting them up. And it just becomes a fucking good old-fashioned 1980s just beat 'em up, shoot 'em up movie. I guess one thing about this movie is both main characters end up dying, pretty much like in the final battle of the movie. But they ended up succeeding in having people kind of woken up, and they started realizing, oh fuck, we're surrounded by aliens, or they live amongst us. Ugh. But again, you know, the movie is what it is. So you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth checking out. You know, Roddy Piper, I mean, we already know Keith David's an amazing actor. Roddy Piper surprises me here. Again, I hadn't been familiar with his body of work. So, he does a really good, damn good job in this. You know, he's a good actor in his own right. So, if you're a fan of either of them, or John Carpenter, definitely check out this movie. It's definitely worth watching. And then, I guess one more little tidbit here. It is, I know, shortly before he died, you know, Roddy Piper is on record saying this movie was a documentary. And then when he made that statement, which I believe he posted it to Twitter, you know, not too long after he did that, he did die. Now, he died, I think it was from, like, heart disease or something. But, you know, what a coincidence, right? Something to think about. But anyhow, again, if you like this movie, or like my commentary review on it, drop a like, subscribe. Helps my small little channel out, and greatly appreciate it. Until the next time, later.